Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. So welcome to this. So today's workshop is about project management, right? I didn't want to call it a workshop on project management because this is merely 1 hour workshop and it's going to focus just on the main concepts, that I want you to know at this stage in your career, and that I think the IEEE facilitates into giving these skills to you. So from what we're going to do today is, before we start, I'd like you to meet me. Yeah, my name is Rayan. I'm busy, 1 minute. Okay, so my name is Rayan. Yeah, I'm a business development and training at Hanna. Okay, I'll be your trainer for today. I'm the founder and coach of the Mindsoap Wellness Center, and I'm a student activities coordinator at the IEEE Kuwait section. Okay, so just before we start, the rules for today: if it was a face-to-face workshop, I would ask you not to smoke, not to use the phone, not to litter, and to wear your masks. But for today, yeah, I'll just ask you to raise your hand if you have any questions. Okay, you can find this in the Zoom toolbar, and then Shada will inform me, and then we can stop to ask your questions. Okay, we also have questions at the end of the workshop. Yeah, so whatever you're more comfortable with. Okay, so the program that we developed. The program that we developed with the IEEE is a soft skills program, yeah, and it encompasses 4 main workshops spread out into the month of October and November. Okay, so the workshop that you're attending today is Intro to Project Management, yeah, and it's the first of the series. The second one would be Intro to Communication Skills, and then this will be held on October 19th. Third workshop would be Intro to Presentation Skills, okay, November 9th. This would be after the start of your semesters. And then Intro to Critical Thinking on November 16th. So this is for the program, and for the whole program. I think this encompasses a lot of skills, yeah, that you might require throughout the academic year, but also throughout your professional and personal lives. Yeah, so this is what we wanted to focus on at the beginning. So enough about me. Now I'd like to start some polling, yeah, just to know a bit more about you, right? So Shada, please, can we launch the polling questions? Okay, so the first question is, what are you studying? What's your major? Right? Just for me to understand your background, yeah, where you're coming from and where you're headed in a way. Okay, good. Yeah, please, if you haven't answered the question, go ahead. You still have 1 minute to do that. And then we'll go on to the next question. Okay, so just to share with you some of the answers that are coming in, almost So the majority is studying electrical engineering, yeah, which is good. My background is in electrical engineering as well, so that's going to be fun. Less in mechanical and then in industrial. Okay. Okay, so a lot of other choices. So I'd like to know what are you studying if it's in others? Yeah, just type it in the chat box so that we kind of know what's happening. Okay, HR, medicine, dentistry. Okay, welcome guys, welcome. It's good to see people from other faculties as well. Yeah, very nice. Welcome everyone. Okay, so it's very interesting actually to see so much interest in project management coming from pharmacy, dentistry, and medicine fields, right? Okay, that's good. Okay, okay, that's good. Shada, can you share the second question, please? Okay, so the second question is just for me to understand what your experience is in project management, right? So where's the prior focus that you might have, yeah, and then so that I can tailor better this workshop for you. Okay, so most of you have done projects at university level, school level. Okay, very good. Most of you, okay. Okay, that's good. Almost 25% of you did some do-it-yourself projects. Okay, that's nice. So trying to build stuff at home. I'm not going to count IKEA furniture as something like this, but okay, that's close. Okay, so very good, very good. So most of you have little experience on project management, and it's okay because this is exactly the kind of workshop that I want to deliver to you, right? This for me is it's an introduction, right? This is why this is an introduction. I don't want to go into much detail. So if you don't have experience in project management, this is precisely for you. Yeah, we're doing this for you. Some people have experience in construction projects, business projects. Okay, that's also good. We're going to touch base on a lot of concepts that are not very familiar, yeah, to everyone, but are very important. Yeah, so you'll be able to see the main points as well. Okay, so Shada, we can go ahead and end the poll. I think that's enough for now. And we'll go back to the slides actually. Okay, so you can still see my slide, my screen. And now that I know a little bit about you, I can tell you in a bit more confidence that this this workshop will actually satisfy the need that you're looking to be satisfied. So a lot of project management principles or books or courses or certificates might seem a bit too complicated, too complex. Yeah. So what I did is, because I want to make this as easy as possible for you, I kind of crunched them down a little bit, yeah, into this 1 hour workshop, basically, yeah. And what I want to do from this workshop, the objectives of this workshop, is basically 4 main points. Okay, so I want you to understand what a project, yeah, and what actually constitutes a project, what defines it, what is not, okay. And then I want you to understand the essentials, yeah, that you need to start your own project, yeah, be it in electrical engineering or be it in medicine or pharmacy, right? It's this is very encompassing in a way that you'll be able to understand this and you'll be able to work on this, yeah, on your own after you finish this workshop. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit more in detail also into what's the life cycle of a project. Okay, and then what's a Gantt chart and how to read one. A Gantt chart is basically a tool, yeah, to read the life cycle of the project. So I'll just give you some points, some example onto that, and then I want you to understand how to manage the cost, expenses, basically just the cash flow of your project, yeah, based on the different types of project that you might have. Okay. Again, if there's something you do not understand or you want me to focus more on, yeah, just press raise your hand button and then we'll explore the question that you have. Okay. So without further ado, what is a project? Okay, I would love to hear from you, yeah, in the chat, of course. What do you think is a project? Okay, go ahead, write it in the chat. Something exhausting, okay? Thank you, Shada. Okay, so what is the project, guys? It's a target, okay. A plan, yes, to execute something, okay. A set of goals, okay, yes. Very good, yeah.
discrete لأن وصول الكاستمر counted by number.
Okay, it's a specific plan. Yes, it's a challenge. Yes, it's a challenge. A target that combines experience with having fun. Okay. When you plan something to achieve a target. Yeah, good, good. Okay, so yes, a lot of good answers. Something that needs to be done in a specific time, a pair of means. Okay. Benefit, yeah, the output of collecting information, ideas to reach the final goal. Okay, okay, so lots of good answers. Thank you everyone for sharing. For me, I'll tell you how I think, not I think actually. So there's an institute called the Project Management Institute, right? And it's basically the accrediting body for everything related to project management. Yeah, it's the institute that gives out PMP certificates and so on. Basically, it certifies the people as project management depending on the experience and the education that they have. So the Project Management Institute, yeah, defines a project as a temporary endeavor and undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So yes, a lot of things that you talked about actually encompass this. Yeah, but what I want to specifically focus on in this definition is the word temporary and the result, right? So a project is defined in time, right? It's a temporary endeavor. It's not something that is on a day-to-day, right? Everything day-to-day, be it in operation or maintenance, is not considered a project, okay? So everything that is bound in time, that has a start and a finish, yeah, can be defined as a project, yeah? Only if its goal, right, like many of you said, its goal is to create a product or service or to achieve a result, right? So yes, many of you have said that, and that's very good. And that's basically what a project is, okay? So before we start any project, right, we need to make sure to have many things, yeah? So what do you think are the necessities, yeah, to have before the start of the project? Go ahead and share in the chat box. Let's see what you guys know.
I'm sorry, Engineer Rayan, if you are sharing your screen with the PowerPoint slide, we can only see the introduction to PowerPoint to project management. I don't know if anyone else can see it. Yeah.
Is it in full screen?
No, it's just the cover.
Okay. Okay, a team, a plan. Yes, we need a team, a plan. Yes, we do. A deadline. Yes. Okay. The math, creativity to make the plan interesting. Okay, thank you, Asma. Requirements and specifications. Yes, we need a plan. Okay, so a lot of you are saying that we need a plan. That's good. Okay. An outline, patience, time management, creativity. Okay, good. Yes, we do need a goal. Yes, realistic goals as well. Yes, that is true. Okay. To discuss the risks. Okay, that's interesting. Good one, Mariam. An outline, a plan. Yes. Okay. So very good. Basically, yes. What we need is first and foremost, like many of you said, is we need a goal, right? Before any project, before we even start a project, yeah, we need to ask ourselves, why are we doing this? Yeah, what are we trying to achieve? What do we want out of this? Yeah, so it's extremely important for us to have the goal in the first place. Yeah, and then since we defined a project as having a start and an end, yeah, then we are bound to have a timeline, right? Else it wouldn't be a project anymore. So the first two things that we need is what are we trying to achieve? Yeah. So if I go back to the slide before that, we're trying to achieve a result, yeah, and we're trying to achieve it in a set of time. So basically, what are we trying to achieve? And then when are we trying to achieve it by? Okay, so it's extremely important for us when we are designing a project, when we are thinking of a project, if you want to start this endeavor, is basically to have a goal and is basically to have a timeline. Okay, so then after these, we break down the goals, we break down the timeline, and then we ask ourselves, okay, so how much is this going to cost, right? In each line item, yeah, what is it going to cost me to perform this task in this amount of time? And I'll tell you this from experience, projects are basically a compromise between time and experience. Okay, so whenever I say timeline and budget, yeah, these two, yeah, might be very interlinked with each other in a way that if I pay someone $5 to perform a task, I can pay another, yeah, I can pay two people $10 total, yeah, to perform the same task in half the amount of time, right? So this is how timeline and budgets are related, yeah. And in project management, you see this very often. Okay, we'll talk about this more later, but just to go back to our main our main point for the slide. Yeah. So we need a goal. Yes. What are we trying to achieve? We need a timeline. Okay. When we want to achieve this project, when we want to complete this project, and we want a budget. Okay. That yes, how much is this going to cost me? How much should I estimate this to cost me? Okay. And then the next two things that we actually need for this project are basically to understand who are the players. Yeah. That are active in this project. Yeah, be it the client side, so the owner of the project, be it the consultant of the project, be it the contractor, or be it any public institute that we need to get license from, news agencies, even if it's a school project, for example. Yeah, who might be your stakeholders? They would be your professors. They would be the dean of the faculty. If you have a student affairs office, then a student affairs office. If you're doing something related to media, right, or if you're trying to get some kind of sponsorship, then you would have to go to your media office, you know, or a PR office, depending if you have one, right? So it's very important for you to understand these things at the beginning of the project so that you can hold something called a stakeholder meeting. Yeah, a stakeholder meeting is basically you get all the stakeholders around the table, yeah, and then you discuss your goals, your timeline, and your budget. Yeah, basically the 3 points that are above. Okay, you discuss your expectations, what are you trying to achieve, when you're trying to achieve it, and in how much time you're trying to achieve it. Okay, so that everyone is on the same page. Okay, so after you know who your stakeholders are, yeah, then you can start having this meeting. And what I'm basically assuming is that you would be the project manager. But if you're not the project manager, then you need someone, right, to make sure that everything's going to get done, yeah, on time and on budget. So you need someone to make sure that they would deliver this goal in this amount of time with this amount of money to these stakeholders, yeah, to these people. So it basically just brings the whole structure together. This project manager is a person responsible for the project, and it's extremely important to have a project manager, which if you're in this workshop, I'm assuming would be you. Yeah, so you would be managing some kind of project, be it at school, or be it building your IKEA table, or be it a construction site, right? So for me, these are what you need to make any kind of project. Yeah, so this is what you need. You need to have a goal, you need to have a timeline, you need to have a budget, you need to know your stakeholders, and you need a person in charge, basically a project manager, yeah, who's going to deliver all of this to you. Yeah. Okay, are there any questions so far? Let's see. Anyone raise their hands? All clear, everything is good. Okay. So far, so good. Great. So let's carry on. Okay. So when we talked about having a timeline, yeah, a lot of you talked about having a plan, having a timeline. So when we say that a project is bound in time, yeah, the project usually comprises of these 5 stages, yeah, and what we call the period of time that we call from the start of the project to the end of the project is called the life cycle of the project. Okay, this is basically divided into 5 stages. Okay, so we'll just go over them. Initially, you'll have the initiating phase. Yeah, this is one of the most important phases where you actually need to set the goal, yeah, and to define the target, define the project. Okay, you have to know what's the timeline, when you're going to achieve it, how much you're going to achieve, and so on, right? So this is an extremely lengthy stage of the project, yeah, but it's an extremely important one. It's an equally important one as well. Okay, so after you're done with the initiating phase, yeah, after you know what your goal is, your timeline, and your budget, you don't necessarily need to be at a level of detail, yeah, that is required to start the project, because this is when you would start planning for the project. Yeah. So after you define, you start planning. So a lot of you mentioned that planning is an extremely important activity, and yes, it definitely is. Yeah. And this is basically the stage of the project where you know what you want to do, you just don't know how to get there yet. Okay. So when you do start this project, yeah, you would be able to finish it without any kind of showstoppers. Okay. So after you define this project, you basically break it down. So yes, you want to achieve this goal in this amount of time with this amount of money. Then okay, so how, you need to ask yourself, how can I do that? You know? And so basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to build a plan, you know, on how you can achieve this target and this deadline and this budget. Okay, so having this roadmap, yeah, having this timeline is something that's extremely important in project management, and it's especially important if you have many stakeholders, right? So if you have a lot of stakeholders, you need to be able to show your progress to your stakeholders. You need to be able to tell them, okay, I was planning on finishing this task this week, however, it's going to take me another 2 weeks, right? So you need to be able to report your progress, yeah, basically what you were planning to do versus what's actually happening. So when we talk about this, yeah, this encompasses the third phase, the third stage of a project life cycle, which is basically executing and monitoring. So after you know what you want to do, after you know how you want to do it, then you start actually doing it. Yeah, you start actually executing your project. Okay, and this is basically where the team that is working on the project is hands-on building. Yeah, be it a product, be it a service, be it any kind of other result that you define, right? So the project team would actually be building these deliverables, would be building this goal for you. Yeah, they're creating this value for you to deliver to your end customer. So in this phase, this is actually where the project manager needs to go back to the stakeholders and basically tell them, right, that okay, this was our plan, yeah, and then this is where we are. This is where we are at today, right? Are we over budget? Are we under budget? Are we late? Are we delayed in any activity? Are we not delayed in any activity? So that there's this transparency and communication between the project manager and the other stakeholders, right? Because further down the line, the stakeholders would hold the project manager accountable, right? That's okay, so we gave you this amount of time, we gave you this amount of money, where's my project, right? So it's extremely important to have this communication between the project manager and the stakeholders as well. Okay, so basically throughout the project, right, at any point of time, if the project manager needs to monitor and measure, right, where is my project at, yeah, compared to my plan, yeah, because this is the person that needs to ensure that the project is on track in terms of time, money, quality, whatever the goal is, right? So after this this phase, we have the closing phase. Yeah, so the closing phase is basically when the project is ready to be delivered, right? So you built the project, yeah, it's ready to be delivered, and then this is where it needs to be transferred to the client. This is how you deliver the project to the client. Yeah. So in this delivery, a lot of if the project is relatively simple, this can be as simple as just handing over a pen to someone or a computer or something. And then it can be as complex as a building or an actual space station, right? So imagine if someone is building a space station and then they need to hand it over to a team, they can't just give them the keys and tell them, okay, so this is what you ordered, right? They need to teach them about what's in this space station, how the space station works, right? And something that I want to give an example a bit a bit more down to earth, literally, is, for example, when you go buy a car, right? If you ever noticed a showroom delivery, if you ever go and buy a vehicle, the staff that are giving you this vehicle spend a lot of time explaining to you about the features of this car, how it works, how it doesn't work, what you can do with it, right? So this this stage is especially important, yeah, when you're trying to deliver this project to the customer and basically just ending your contractual terms with them. Okay, that yes, this is your product, and then this is where you get the satisfaction out of it. Okay, so from these 5 stages, yeah, of the project life cycle, what project managers usually do at the planning stage is they say, okay, so this is what we want to do, and then we need to look at how we can do it, right? And then basically this how we can do it is just taking the whole piece of cake and then cutting it down into even smaller activities, right? So if you're trying to build a table, then you would put it into different sections. You would say, okay, I need to start with this set of activities. After I finish this, I need to do this, yeah? So for example, in a construction scenario, if you're ever involved in a building, right? So a lot of electrical engineers are there in the audience. So if you're actually involved in a construction project, you would know that the electrical part is huge, right? And as big as it is, it's still, compared to the size of the project, it's still only a part of it. Yeah, so the project manager would go from, okay, I need to build a building. Yeah, I need to build 6-story building. And then they would break it down into different stages, right? Different parts. So yes, I need to get my civil works done. I need to get my mechanical works done. I need to get my electrical works done, right? And so these groups, yeah, these groups of tasks then need to be broken down into even smaller tasks, right? That, okay, I need to get the wires, I need to get electricity into the building. Okay, how do I do that? Well, I need a substation, right? I need a connection to the main grid. I mean, I need a generator, whatever it is, right? So these tasks just kind of start building, yeah, and then the grouping of it makes the whole project. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is that this breaking down of tasks, yeah, in the Project Management Institute, they call it a work breakdown structure. Okay, so if you look here on the second part of the screen, what you see is actually, okay, you have one main task to complete, yeah, WBS1, for example, and it's going to take me 10 weeks, right? And then for this to complete, right, I need to do activity A, activity B, C, and D, right? So the grouping of these activities, when I do finish activities A to D, then I would consider myself as completed this element 1, right? So only when all of this is finished, then this would be done. Yeah, similarly to element 2. This requires me to finish these tasks, okay? So this is just a way for you to better plan your project, right? For me, it's always the more details go into your planning, the more details go into your timeline, the more a task is broken down into. What does it mean? I mean, if a task is a 1-week task, if it's broken down into a 30-minute time lapse, then this amount of details, yeah, is what makes good planning, right? So just as a work breakdown structure, yeah, this allows you to see basically what tasks need to be done first, what tasks are taking the most amount of time, yeah, and then throughout the execution of the project, this is where you'll be able to start monitoring the project. So you'll be able to see, okay, so today I am at this stage, yeah. However, I am late on this task. I was expecting to finish this task on week 4, right? But I do not complete this. So now I am delayed in activity D, right? So this is the amount of of monitoring and the level of details that should go into the actual planning. Okay, so I'll show you an example, right, of a construction project. So this is the construction of a house. Okay, and then one of the few jobs that are broken down into, it's the internal side of the house, and then the foundation side of the house, and later the external side of the house, right? So all of these are broken into electrical works, plumbing works, and so on and so forth, right? And you can notice in the Gantt chart, right, that each task has a duration, a start date, and an end date, right? So that you know how much time this needs. And further to that, they're plotted in a way, you can even see these arrows. So the arrows, show you the relationship, the correlation between each task, right? So I cannot do electrical works, I cannot lay out cables if I don't have some kind of cement structure, right? There's no way that I can put cables just out in thin air or just lay them around the ground, right? So I need to finish something before I start something else, right? So this is a start to finish relationship between tasks. Okay, so this is what you do with, this is what you see here with the arrow, right? So this needs to finish so that this one can start, right? And when you identify all of this relationship, task relationship between one another, you can then see which tasks would delay you, right, if it took longer than expected. So for example, for this one here, if we go back to this example, this was delayed, so this cannot start, right? And since this has not started, this is going to delay my whole project, right? So for me, this is something that we call a critical path, right? So it's a delay in one task that results in delay of the whole project, okay? Other relationships are start to start, so we start tasks at the same time, okay? And then you have relationships, task relationship also finish to finish, right? There aren't any showing here, but that's also a possibility. Okay, so it's a lot of information, I know, so far, but it's essential part of project planning. That's why I wanted to take a lot of time talking about these. So I'll open some questions. Let's see if there's anyone raising their hands. Okay, no questions? So it's either I'm a really good presenter or everyone is sleeping. Okay, good to know. Okay, good. So if everyone is on the same page, then we'll carry out. Okay, all is clear. Really good presenter. Thank you very much. Boosting my confidence. Let's go. So now that we talked about planning the project and the life cycle of the project, I want to spend some time talking about the cost of the project, right? I was telling you that a lot of time, the cost and the time that a project takes are in relation to each other, right? And I'll just make this a bit bigger for you so that you can see. Okay, so a lot of projects, they go over budget. We say that the project went over budget, in some cases, and it's something that is very interesting, especially when a lot of planning, a lot of resources and staff and research go into the planning phase of a project, right? So we said that, yes, we need to break down all of the tasks in order for us to better understand, what the project at hand and how to manage it. So it's really it's astonishing really to see, for example, some of the figures over here, right? So for the example of the International Space Station, was budgeted for around $40 billion, right? And then it actually costed around 110. Yeah. So this gap, right? This over budget gap, yeah, needs to be paid, right? I mean, it's either you drop the project and then you say, okay, this is a financial burden to me or to the company, or you can say, okay, so how much is this going to cost in over budget, and then just keep paying for this project to complete. Yeah. So the International Space Station, yeah, had an over budget of $68 billion, and that's no small number, especially when you compare it to its initial $30 billion budget, right? It's almost 2 times more, right? So it's really very important for us to know, especially on a project management perspective, that these things happen, yeah? But it's also important for us to understand why these things happen, yeah? And why this happens, of course, all projects aren't the same, right? But I'll just give you some clarity or some options onto why this could have happened, right? So when we are planning a project, when we're estimating a project, yeah, we are still at the formulation phase, okay? We're still defining this project. We're still trying to plan it. We're contacting some suppliers. What is this going to cost us? How much time is it going to take, right? So even though we broke down the different items that we need to take care of, yeah, we're still not fully certain, yeah, about what this project is going to cost in terms of material or in terms of expenses. Yeah. So what this graph shows is that over the course of time, yeah, when you are in a concept phase, yeah, you have a high cost uncertainty. And basically what that means is, if today I'm asked, okay, so how much money do you need to build a hospital? Then I would give a rough estimate, yeah. But then the more I look into this, yeah, the more I break this project down, the more I study, the more I look for suppliers, the more I get into the small details of it, then I reduce my uncertainty, right? I know exactly where I'm going to spend and how I'm going to spend it, yeah. And the more time I spend, the more time I take doing this kind of research, the less uncertain, yeah, my cost overrun becomes, right? So in the beginning, it's normal to have a high uncertainty, but the more we plan, yeah, and the more we know what's needed to complete this project, then the more certain we are in terms of cost and in terms of time as well, right? A lot of you also said it's about managing risk, and yes, it is about managing risk, exactly. And there is a predominant risk, especially in terms of time and cost, that maybe this gets more expensive over time, right? Oil is one of these examples. Yeah, shipping costs might get, even material costs like cement or iron, right? They might get more expensive over time. Okay, so this is basically what this says, and I want to go over the different kinds of costs, yeah, that we might incur in a project. Okay, so basically it's broken down into 2 costs. Yeah, the direct cost and you have the indirect costs. Okay, so a direct cost is basically any amount of money going into the project itself, right? So when you deliver this project, you deliver it as they call it a value, right? A cumulative value. So for example, if I am building with 100 kg worth of metal, and then I give you this project, the metal, whatever I gave you, yeah, has 100 kg of metal inside, right? So this is considered as a direct cost. Okay, so other examples of direct costs are site preparations, yeah, equipment, the building process, yeah, support facilities for the site. So this is in terms of capital cost. And then in terms of operation and management, then you have the cost, the labor cost, the wage that you pay your workers, be it in a construction project or other, right? And then you have your material and your transportation, okay? Then you go into the indirect costs. Basically, the indirect cost is anything that you need to facilitate this project delivery. So basically, what this would, for example, be the offices that you need to pay for to keep your staff inside, right? This would be, for example, your utilities. This would be, for example, your training rooms, your testing, your certificates, if you're looking for any, right? Even your design, okay? Licenses as well. Okay, so all of these would be counted as indirect costs, okay? And I'm telling you this because this would help you whenever you're planning a project, right? Basically to understand how to manage your cash flow, okay? So when I say cash flow, I'm not gonna go into more finance driven terms, but basically a cash flow is the difference between your income and your expenses. Yeah, it's the amount of money that you have at hand at all time. Okay, so in a project, right, when you're talking about a project, the cash flow is hard to manage, especially because you don't have the full amount that you require at the start of your project. So if I am building, say, I don't know, a workshop, right, a car workshop, that would cost 120 million KD, right? I'm not going to have 20 million KD at day one for me to just sit in the bank and use at my convenience, right? So this project, would contractually tell me that, okay, this, you asked for 20 million KD, but we will not pay them as 20 million on day one. We'll pay them as 5, on day one, 5 at 25% of the project, another 5 at 25, and then another 5 at 25, right? So I'm not sure if I missed a 5 million KD along the way, but the point is that you don't have all of your funding requirements at the same at the initial state of your project, right? So if you start with your 5 million KD, then you need to spend all of this time with this budget before you get your next payment and your next payment and your next payment, right? So in this phase, you would actually be spending, from all of this funding, right? And a cash flow management is basically methods, or just monitoring tools for you as a project manager, to just make sure that you have enough money when you need it, right? It's not about, oh, well, I run over budget. So when you run over budget, it's not just that you need more money from the client. It's that you're liable to your client. Okay. And that's basically it in terms of cash flow management. And if I want to talk a bit more about this slide, what this basically says is that you make your money only at the end of the project, right? Only at the completion of the project. So you would have, yes, all of your costs, all of your expenses, okay, as such, and then your funding would be coming in throughout the project, depending on how you manage your cash flow, right? And then this, what they call here as management reserve, is just in terms of, okay, so how much of the total funding, the project budget, am I going to save? Because this is what the project management is going to get as profit, right? So if I tell you this project is going to cost 20 million KD, and then the cost to me to build this project is 18 million, then I get 2 million in management reserve, which is basically to pay the profits, of the company or of the owner, right? So this is basically it in terms of time, in terms of money, all the relationships in between, right? So we spent a lot of time talking about these, and I know it's a lot of information to take in 1 hour of time, yeah, but it's important for you to know these, whether you're in medicine or whether you're in engineering. And what I did is I went a step further and I summarized, right, these lessons that I want you to take home with you. Or if you're at home, then I want you to just take with you. So basically the 5 lessons, yeah, that I put up is, first, proper planning prevents poor performance, right? So this is the rule of 5 Ps, yeah. So this is what this basically says is that you need to spend as much time as possible, to define your project, to identify your stakeholders, and just to plan and plan and plan ahead in terms of time, in terms of cost, in terms of what tasks needs to be done before which task, and then also in terms of risk, right? Second lesson that I would like to share with you is basically that continuous communication is essential, right? When we're working on a project, we're not alone, right? Not that we have to report to our team, no, but we have to report to our stakeholders as well, right? So because we're doing this because someone asked us to or because we want to, right? So we have to report to our stakeholders in terms of the progress of the project. Yes, how is this going? Yeah, is it on time? Is it on budget? Are there any risks? Yeah, and this is basically the third lesson that I want to share with you, is to look ahead. Be very careful about any potential risks that might come up in your project. Yeah, it can be as simple as, oh, I need this paper from this government institution, or I need to get the approval of this advisor before I start this project. And it can be as big as, oh, we might have a virus coming from China that would literally freeze the world, right? So these kinds of risks need to be looked at way ahead so that we're not surprised by any unfolding that happens, right? Fourth lesson to take with is no task is big enough. Yeah, when you break it into smaller pieces. I mean, I would eat this whole pizza by myself, but only if I break it down into smaller pieces first. Yeah, so the smaller the piece, yeah, the easier it gets. Yeah, and really, I don't want you to think that any task or any project is too big for you to undertake. Yeah, you can always find ways into doing this. Yeah, and lastly, the fifth lesson is to fight for your KPIs. A KPI is a key performance indicator, right? Which basically means what you're accountable for, what you need to deliver. Yeah, what measures if you've done a good job or not. And in project management, this is basically if you've delivered a quality project in the amount of time that was requested and on budget, yeah, that you asked for. So you really need to be fighting for your KPIs, yeah, so that you need to meet them in order to be a successful project manager. Okay, so that's it for now, at least for me, for this workshop. And I would like to open the floor to some questions. So please go ahead, type your questions in the chat box, and let's see how this conversation goes. Okay, is the project manager held accountable for outside elements such as prices, inflation, increases in labor charges? What happened while the project is running? If not, was the responsible party? So yes, the project manager is accountable to the delivery of the project on time and on cost, right? The stakeholders might be lenient into approving an over budget in terms of labor shortage or in terms of allowing more time, yeah, for the delivery of the project. But at the end of the day, it's contractually binding, yeah, to deliver this project. Okay. We can say the indirect cost is government approval. Government approval, I would say it's more of a licensing requirement, right? I wouldn't look at it as the cost per se. If there is a cost, a huge cost element involved, then yes, it would be a separate category by itself, which is basically licensing. Okay, what else? Don't be shy. It's a lot of information, I know, but I'd like to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Is the Gantt chart necessary for engineers? Yes, it is. I'm not going to continue your question. Yes, it is. Get familiar with it as much as possible. Familiarize yourself with software like Primavera. Yes, there are, of course. Yes, of course. Primavera is very important, especially in the project management. There are a lot of softwares, a lot of online resources that you can use. I would suggest you start doing this on a pen and paper, just to really understand what this means. You can use Excel, you can use tools online. Primavera is one, Microsoft Project is another. Really, a lot of project management tools are out there, but at the end of the day, it's extremely important to know what a Gantt chart is and how this can be used, to monitor your execution of the project and report to your stakeholders. Best workshop ever. Thank you, Hanna. That's very sweet of you. MATLAB, yes, MATLAB is also important. In the project management sphere, not as much, more in the risk management, risk assessment. So Mona, if you're referring to that, yes, it's extremely important to know some kind of MATLAB. Because this is also something that, who asked these questions? Yes, that Ali asked in terms of increases in price and delays in timeline. So there's always a risk involved in terms of prices and in terms of time, right? So you should be able to use MATLAB or any other modeling software to know exactly what kind of randomness or what's the possibility, right? I'm going to use this word. What's the possibility that you run over budget or you run over time, and how much over budget and how much over time? Yeah, so MATLAB is a good tool for it. There are many other simulation tools as well that you can look into. Should the project be held with a group or can it be held individually? Okay, Mona, I feel like you're the kind of person that does the school project alone. Please don't do that. Involve your team. It's extremely important to do a project with the team, basically because it gives you more time and more people, right, to work on the project. More ideas, of course, and at the end of the day, 4 hands better than 2, or 4 eyes better than 2, whatever you want to call them. What advice I would give you is to allocate responsibilities and deadlines, to your team. So it's nice to have a team of 10 or a team of 5, whatever it is, but it's extremely important to know that this person will be doing this task with this deadline as well. We didn't talk much about resources and team management, but it's extremely important to allocate someone that's responsible for the tasks that you give them. Okay, very good at explaining. Thank you guys. No, I usually love working with people. Okay. Okay, so my advice stands: give responsibilities and give deadlines. Okay, so if there are no more questions, there's one more question. How do you estimate the time needed for each task in the project? This depends on the task, of course. There are many ways to do this. The first one is to actually do the task or see someone who have done the task before, so that you can kind of know. Another one is through industry standards, right? So if I know that painting a wall would take one person, it would take 1 man-hour. So this is it's a unit we use in project management. It's called man-hour. basically it says I need this person for 1 hour to complete this job. So if I say to paint a wall of 2 meters by 1, I need one man hour. This is very known to it's openly known to a lot of contractors in the industry if it's a repetitive tasks or so. Okay. What else? Okay. So if there are no more questions, thank you guys very much for attending. It was an immense pleasure for me. But I would also like to thank the team for organizing this. They've been behind the scenes, and they're basically the reason why you're here, why we're here all together. So thank you, Shadas. Thank you, the team, for it.
So much.
Do contact them. Contact them for any inquiries. If you'd like to get in touch, more questions, and so on. And definitely register for the IEEE Club student branch.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mohammed Rayan. If you guys have any questions after the meeting, you can email us. You already have our email. And we will always stay in touch, and see you guys on day 2. Thank you all so much. Thank you. شكرا مهندس يعطيك العافية. Thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Thank you. Take care. Have a nice day.